Hi guys, so the following clip is from a live stream I did in my monthly membership group called HeartPath. I'm doing live streams every week in there. In the future, we're going to have guests and so much more. There's also video courses and many other things that are in the pipeline. There's some video courses already produced on there and some in the works right now. And I would love for you to come join us on the HeartPath by going to the description down below, clicking the link. And if it feels right for you to join us, it's very low priced right now. I want to get as many people in as possible, give this stuff to as many people as possible. But the following is from a live stream I did in there very recently. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you on the inside. But I want to talk about an idea that I've been really thinking about deeply very recently. And for a long time, and it's an idea that one of the best ideas I believe, and one of the most helpful ideas, one of the most transformative ideas, if applied, that I've been taught from my mentor and teachers. And like I mentioned, if you watch my YouTube videos, or I'm sure other people's, that there is power in applied knowledge. Knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. So as I go through this idea and give you examples, just remember this might feel good. It might feel good to visualize and imagine, ooh, what would my life be like if I was to follow through with this idea and actually implement this idea in my life. But just remember that that feeling is a preview of how you could feel so much more often if you're actually doing it. You know, you're consistently putting your energy in what I'm going to talk to you about. And again, this is just an invitation. You could listen to this live stream and be like, hey, that's not for me, I don't agree, whatever it is, and that's neither right or wrong, and that's great. This is simply just an invitation of an idea that I think is very beneficial, very helpful, and can do a lot of good. So this is the idea of where you visit and the idea of where you live energetically. You see, what we have to realize when it comes to the quality of our life is a few things. And it's very simple things at the end of the day, but it's about being aware of these simple things, you know, bringing our awareness back and then moving from these simple things so that we're molding our life in the way that we wish, because we absolutely mold our own existence. We are all going through, we can call it a movie, we can call it a play, we can call it whatever. We are all going through our own individual reality, our own individual experience here on Earth. Unless you're tuning in from some other planet, that's great too. But we are all going through our own movie, and it's not like anyone else's movie. You know, we like to project our own movie onto other people, think that they think the same way we do. They might some people might similarly, but you would be hard pressed to find someone that thinks 100% exactly in the same manner you do. And actually, it wouldn't be just hard pressed, it would be impossible. We are all living our own subjective reality because we are all creating our reality as we go. Now, yes, there's collective consciousness. Yes, there are certain parameters in how you can create that reality, absolutely. But there are less restrictions than you think. But we have to understand that the outer world, which is what a lot of us put our attention into, follows the inner world. The inner world deals with the quantum and deals with energy. It is instantaneous. For example, you can tap into the feeling of love right now. Do you have to wait, you know, a bit of time in the physical realm to feel love? No, that happens instantaneously. Same with gratitude, same with happiness, same with sadness, same with anger. Anything on the emotional spectrum, on the emotional scale, you can feel instantaneously. Some you might have harder time accessing because you haven't practiced to do so. For example, if you live a life of maybe quiet desperation, you may not be able to access love or peace or joy or these emotions so easily, although the more you practice, the more you'll be able to do that, absolutely. But we have to understand that these things are available to us instantaneously. And a lot of us are trying to mold our physical realm first in order to feel a certain way. And so we'll go out and try and achieve things. We'll go out and try and, you know, get the girl, get the guy, get in a relationship just to be in one, right? So we feel maybe more comfortable. We try and achieve something because we think that will help us with happiness. You know, we try and impress maybe our parents. Maybe we put a lot of energy into, I need to do this because then my dad will see me and be proud of me, or my mom, or whoever else, or my friend, or I'll be popular, or whatever else it is. This is external stuff, right? External stimulus, external feedback that we think we need in order to feel something. But the trick of the matter is it's actually backwards. I've gone over before the be, do, have paradigm. Most people have this backwards. Most people think you have to have something in order to do something to be something, right? Like I need to have a degree to do this thing called whatever that degree says you can do. Let's say, oh, I want to study animals, so I need to be a zoologist. I need a degree before I can go study animals, so I got to have that degree. Okay, go get that degree. Then I can do the thing called being a zoologist, and then if that's what you believe will make you happy, then I'll be happy, right? But it's backwards. It always starts from the inner world, right? So it's be, do, have. You tap into the energy and emotion first. You learn. This is why we say adopt an attitude of gratitude. Why is that a thing? Because if you can tap into genuinely the energy of gratitude and maintain and sustain that energy, if you can live in that place, we'll say, and this is what we're getting into in this video, if you can live in the energy of gratitude, again, you will always visit other places. We are a dualistic, contrast-driven being, a spiritual being in a human body. The physical world deals with duality. We're not in a oneness state. We are in these bodies for a reason. We are here for a reason. There's nothing wrong with being in this form. Are there things in other forms that maybe deal more with oneness? Probably. I'm not going to say that there isn't, but we are here, you are here in this form for a reason, and it's not better or worse than any other form. In the same way that a first grader is no better or worse than an eighth grader. They're just in different, they're just along a different path, or different places in the path, in this case, in education. In our growth in consciousness, we're here in the 3D world, moving on to the fourth dimension, we'll say. But there are beings in that, beyond that, and beyond that. And neither is better or worse. An acorn is not better than the oak tree. Both are needed for that process to even take place. You are an important part of the process. One of my favorite quotes is from Alan Watts, and he says this so beautifully in one of his talks. He says that we're all just trying to figure out what our place in the world is. We're all this different stuff, and he says you are actually the original Big Bang. You are still a part of the process that started from that initial point of physicality coming into space, into the universe. You are still the original Big Bang going through its process. And when I let that sink in for myself, I was like, holy crap, that is such a beautiful... I'm getting tingles just thinking of it now. And I'm not saying it verbatim. You'll have to find this talk of him yourself. And luckily, in one of the talks, you can find it on YouTube. I wish I remembered the name of it. But you can find it on YouTube, and he mentions it pretty early. And he immediately gets into it, where he says, let's say that the Big Bang was the original thing, like scientists are saying. And he kind of uses this analogy of throwing a bottle of ink on the wall, and how when you do that, it's more dense in the middle, and then it kind of gets more intricate the further out you go. And what his comparison says is you're one of these little patterns that it's a little more intricate further out from the initial Big Bang, but you are as much a part of the process as anything that's densely in that middle from the beginning, or if there is an end, you are as much a part of that process. So that's a little tangent. You'll notice I'll go on these quite a bit while we're here. But ultimately, getting back to this idea of your energy, right? So why do we say adopt an attitude of gratitude? Why do we say start with the inner world first? Because everything comes from your inner world. When you are looking at your physical world, here's the way I want you, if it feels good for you. Again, anything I say is an invitation. Even if I use certain rhetoric like I want or whatever, understand that the core of what I'm saying is only an invitation. There is nothing you have to take on board, and if it doesn't feel right to you, I implore you not to take it on board. I'm not here to force anyone's hand, to make them believe anything, to make them do anything. I'm only here to serve as an example and as an invitation of things that have worked for me, things that I believe are very helpful, and to offer that to you. And if you're in the place to use it, it might even be right now you're not in that place and later you will be, or maybe you're beyond that and that's like, okay, this is not the best use of my energy and time. Yeah, I don't know. But understand it's always an invitation. So what I want you to think about, hopefully I didn't just lose my train of thought there. I'm sure I'll get it back. But what I want you to think about is, I did lose my train of thought, so we'll do this. I want you to think about where you're putting your energy most of the day. Are you putting it on gratitude? Are you putting it on love? Are you putting it on this energy? Right? Because these are things you can feel instantaneously. Again, there might be some resistance if you haven't, but think of it this way. How easily can you get angry? Let's say if you're on the other end and you're more used to that, how easy can you put yourself in a state of fear? How easily can you put yourself in a state of sadness or shame and guilt? A lot of people can do it like that. Now, that same ability to access those emotions like that, which usually is because you're thinking of certain things or you're reacting in a certain way, you can as easily access emotions and feelings and energy at the other end of the spectrum. So this is things like love, this is things like gratitude, joy, bliss, and peace. Anything on that spectrum emotionally, and all of these actually calibrate at certain consciousness levels. And we'll go over that in a future live stream because it's a bit beyond here. But in the same way that some people can access anger like that, something simple happens and they just blow up and get angry. Or something happens and you feel guilt and it makes you think of a memory that connects you to guilt, right? In the same way that you may have that experience, other people have that experience, right? In that same way, you can do the same for gratitude, love, peace, and joy by creating the same kind of habits in the other direction. Ultimately, what's going to be easier to access is whatever you're feeding. And you feed something by giving it your attention. So if I give more attention to gratitude, attitude of gratitude, which implies that I have an attitude of it. That's something I walk around with, this attitude of gratitude, always being thankful for what I have in my life, thankful for the money coming in, the people I have in my life, the beautiful nature around me, thankful to be able to do this, even when there's, I think as of now, 3 people in here, and one of them's Lily, and one of them's me, right? So just being grateful, it makes it so easy for me to tap into that emotion. You know, right now, it will take me a few moments to tap into the beautiful emotion of gratitude. It'll take me a few moments to tap into love, right? But only because I've created those connections in the same way that someone who gets angry very easily has created those connections to easily connect to anger. Now, for most of us, we don't do that consciously or deliberately, right? We're not consciously or deliberately trying to connect to anger, right? It might be conditioned. Something when you were a kid, you watched your dad or your mom get angry very easily, and you picked up that pattern. You learned that if someone does this, you should get angry. Or if this happens, if something like just happens to you, you know, life just is kicking your butt, and then you're supposed to get angry, right? Instead of realizing that you're actually a co-creative being creating all of this, which makes me remember one of the points I had, but I'll get to that in a minute. But ultimately, what's happened is you've created this almost highway, super highway to being able to connect to this emotion like that. And in that same way, you can connect to love like that. You can connect to gratitude like that. You can learn to connect to peace and joy, neutrality, acceptance, courage. Name the emotion, and you can learn to connect to it like that. Now, how do you learn to connect to it like that? And this is getting back to the original title of this video. How do you learn to live in some place while only visiting another? Because I get angry. I still feel guilt and shame at times. I still have felt sadness. I had a breath work session recently where I cried out some things, and it was actually very beautiful. Understand that emotions like anger and sadness and anything that can be considered an actual emotion from the heart, an actual energy, is not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. So when you're feeling anger, this is not a time to then transmute that into guilt because you're like, oh, I'm feeling anger, I'm not supposed to. There is no you're not supposed to or you are supposed to. It's just a matter of choice. And sometimes it's very, very healthy to be able to explore emotions like sadness and anger and even guilt and shame. And that is a lot of times called shadow work because it's inside of you. I had some sadness inside of me from my childhood. My inner child was very sad. And through that breath work, it helped me to cry that out. And from a certain kind of point in my life, actually be able to send more light energy. You know, we're going to get woo-woo here. Some light energy, but better consciousness, higher consciousness to the situation that was making me sad. I cried it out. When you cry something out, when you release something through anger, understand that for you to release something like that, you have to feel it. A lot of us are used to numbing it. So don't think that these emotions are something you should never be feeling. In fact, if you're never feeling these emotions, the ones that we would consider a little lower on the spectrum of consciousness, all sadness I wouldn't put down there, anger is down there. Understand if you're never feeling those at all, something is up, and typically it's because you're avoiding and numbing things that your soul, your inner child, wants you to look at and just shine the light on. You know, darkness cannot survive in the light. When I cried this thing out, there was a lot of darkness around my inner child, a lot of things influencing and manipulating and preventing me from really allowing this to be released. But when I looked at it, it was very easy to shine the light on it, clear it up, and allow it to be transcended and transmuted. But I had to look at it. I had to cry. I had to go in with the breath work there, or else that would have stayed within me and manifested in one way or another, right? That was influencing my inner world, my energetic world, right? And so it's about where you live versus visit. Here's where most people live. Most people live what's called below the 200 on the consciousness scale. 200 is courage. Most people live below it in emotions like pride, fear, anger, sadness, even desire is at 125, like always thinking you need something, right? This is like the achievement, like I need something to feel good. I need this, I need that, right? Desire, this is where like drug addictions happen. This is where sex addictions happen. This is where, even whatever you want to put in there can happen. And you can be addicted to anything, by the way. This is I need to have X, Y, or Z to feel X, Y, or Z, right? Desire. Fear is in there as well. Guilt and shame. Those kinds of emotions are below that level of 200. And unfortunately, most people, the majority of people, are living in these emotions daily. If someone is stressed all the time, I guarantee they are living the majority of their life in these emotions. Stress is simply a byproduct of living in these emotions. Stress itself isn't an emotion. You feel stressed because you're living in these emotions. Anxiety itself is not an emotion. It's actually overthinking. That's what anxiety is. You're way in your head and like thinking of all the problems that can come in and so many different things, right? But it's because you're living in those other emotions. If you get anxious every now and then, it's not really a big deal. But when it becomes an ongoing fight or flight response to everything, well, that wears you down. It wears your body down. It wears your spirit down, right? And so we're looking at this from the perspective of where do we want to live and where do we want to visit. So maybe you've identified that you live in what would be considered a lower emotion. Now, first and foremost, understand that just having that awareness already helps so much. But again, in the same way that we have to look in ourselves sometimes and feel certain things coming up, we have to admit when maybe we're living in a way energetically that we don't necessarily want to, right? We need to admit that. We need to have awareness before we can take the step to really determine what it is we do want and move in that direction, right? You need to know where you are and where you want to go in order to bridge that gap. You can't really start, you can know where you want to go, but if you don't know where you are, you're going to struggle to get there. And if you know where you are but don't know where you want to go, you're never going to get there, right? That's like going up to a ticket station at a train station and being like, hey, I want a ticket to just not here. Well, you're going to go nowhere. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Do you want to go here, here? No, I want to just get me out of here, right? That's not going to work, right? So you also need to know where you want to go. But that could be simply, I want to live in just higher emotions. I want to live in love. I want to live in gratitude. I want to live in peace. And I want to access these emotions in my inner world more often. So now we have that awareness. How do we actually do it, right? So what can we do on a daily or even, here's the trick, moment-to-moment basis so that we are living from these emotions of abundance, this energy of gratitude, this energy of love and peace and joy and togetherness and connection. How do we allow for that to be where we live? How do we allow for that to be the predominant energy in our life? Which, by the way, again, I just remembered something I said I was going to tell you. When you look at your physical reality, don't think of it as what's happening now. Your physical reality represents your energetic history. Let that sink in for a second. Energy is happening instantaneously now in this moment. But the physical world, you have whatever physical things, I have my place here, I have a beautiful natural environment out here. But if my inner world was massively chaotic, if my inner world was sustained in a place of very lower emotion, I guarantee most of this wouldn't be here. This is my energetic history, everything I'm seeing around me, the money that's in my bank account, the relationships and the quality of them that I have, the fact that I'm able to live in nature, right? The freedom that I have in my life. Why is that? Because of how my inner world has been cultivated, taken care of, and fed. My mental diet, how my mental diet has been, my energetic diet has been, that's a good way of putting it. My energetic diet has created a history of my physicality that looks like this. And guess what? You're always creating, so this will probably change, unless for some reason I want to stay put. But that's most likely not going to happen, right? This will change, and I know there will be changes coming. But that happens because of the cultivation of the inner world. If you find yourself in certain physical situations, like your outer world doesn't look the way you want it to look, you have to look at your past actions. There's something called the quantum to Newtonian transition point. And this is a scientific idea and term. This is not some kind of woo-woo thing, even though I love the woo-woo. But this has a lot of basis in research and science. Quantum to Newtonian transition point. You can look at people like Tom Campbell who do this kind of work. And what the quantum to Newtonian transition point states, and we can just look, quantum means the energetic realm. Newtonian means the physical realm, where the physical laws are applied, right? So physical realm, inner world, quantum, energetic realm. What this says is that 6 to 8 weeks of sustained particle flow, which just means energetic flow in a singular direction, a singular focus of that energy, which could be love, gratitude, being in higher consciousness or lower, but 6 to 8 weeks of sustained, consistent particle flow, energy flow, will lead to dramatic changes, dramatic results. Notice the word dramatic, not like, oh, little changes, dramatic changes in the physical realm. 6 to 8 weeks of concentrated particle flow in a singular direction. Think of it like a laser, not like a light bulb that kind of shines all these different things and you have your focus all over the place, but a singular direction, right? Because you could be going, oh, I'm in love, now I'm in fear, now I'm in love, now I'm in fear. Right? That's going to give you very mixed results. You're not going to get dramatic changes in your physical reality by doing that. This is why a lot of people who get into affirmations or want more abundance in their life, they don't see results, right? Because they listen to the affirmations maybe for 30 minutes, maybe they hook into them, maybe not, maybe they feel it energetically, maybe not. But let's say they do. And then for the rest of the day, they're feeling in lack. What's going to win out? Right? What will the physical reflect if most of the time that person's still in lack? Now, is it better to be 30 minutes in abundance energy and to connect to that than not? Absolutely. That will elicit some kind of change little by little. But it need not be that way. 6 to 8 weeks, for example, and I aim to have my clients do this, is really focus their energy. I give them certain things that help them do that, is to really focus in that time and you will start seeing results. I get them to even write out these results, and I say pay attention to these. Write out when things are happening in your physical reality because they are signs of things to come. Signs do not precede, they proceed. And what that means is signs will start showing up after you've already been feeling it in your inner world. Right? If you are seeing signs, if you are seeing angel numbers, if you are seeing certain things come in, it's because you have in some way been successful in sustaining a certain level of energy. And to really use that as more and more of an invitation to invest even more in that energy. Right? I guarantee right now, if you want a little challenge, for the next week, make it your priority over everything else to connect to gratitude, love, abundance, and these kinds of emotions. Do things that you absolutely love to do. Not love from an egoic perspective, like, oh, people like me when I do this. Do things that just set your soul on fire in a good way, a good soul fire. Set your heart on fire, right? That really allow you to express yourself and make you excited. And sometimes it could be little things. I love being in nature. Right? I was just outside a second ago, not a second ago, that's a lie, like an hour ago, second hour, same difference. Time is an illusion. But I was out there about an hour ago, just kind of, I put my feet in the mud and was just doing a little bit of Qigong, and I was so into it. And that's so simple. Anyone can do that. Sometimes I'll just go outside and walk around in the sun. And I have this pole, and I'll just do like these shoulder exercises because sometimes I have some shoulder issues, which are getting a lot better through doing this. And I'll just do some movements with it, or I'll do some cartwheels, and I'll move around in the sun. I'll do a little bit of exercise, and I love that. I'm loving this right now. I'm going to be doing this a lot, I can tell. But for 23 minutes so far, I've been in an absolutely excited energy, and you can probably feel it. Right? And so what are those things for you? How can you bring more of that into your day is by prioritizing it. And I guarantee if for even just a week, you prioritize it so the majority of each and every single day, you are doing things that you love, you are doing things that excite you, you are doing work that excites you, you are hanging out with people who excite you, you are reading material that help excite you. Maybe you're watching stuff like this and you're applying it. You're not going on, Facebook all the time, even though we're on Facebook. Okay. Oh, I got a message from Zuckerberg. They're taking my stream down for saying that. but you're not on, social media all the time browsing. Maybe you're consciously doing it, right? That's something I've been working on. I'm like, if I'm going to be on social media, I'm going to do it very consciously, right? So if I'm going to watch someone, I'm going to already know who I'm going to watch, and I know what they calibrate at as far as energy and consciousness. So I know it's not going to drag me down. I have certain blockers that don't let me get distracted, right? And so maybe instead of doing some of the things are distraction oriented, watching certain movies, maybe you watch a high conscious movie, right? I'll give you one that you can look up. Conversations with God. You can find it for free on YouTube. The Peaceful Warrior, you can also find for free on YouTube. These are movies that calibrate at a much higher level of consciousness. You can read certain books. You can get out into nature. Getting out into nature is one of the best things you can do as well. Raises your consciousness. Moving, exercising also, boom, right up there. Having a moment to journal and reflect from a place of gratitude also. So find those things for you. We all have them. For me, recently what I found, and I know I'm talking like a million miles per hour here, so maybe you can put me on anyone who's watching this later can put me on a lower speed. But ultimately, one thing I'm finding, and this I think works for everybody because I think it's embedded into our DNA to really get into this, but I've been singing and dancing a lot just throughout the day. I'll be in the shower and I'll just be singing, or I'll have some music on, I'll just sing along with it. I'll do breath work and I'll start moving and I'll start dancing afterwards. And these make me feel really good. This idea of feel good now. And so for this next week, I invite you / challenge you to see if you can prioritize being in those higher levels of energy. Can you prioritize gratitude, love, abundance, and similar energies over energies like fear, anger, shame, and guilt? Now, if this is something you're new to, it might be a little more difficult, but can you keep your awareness on that? Can you do an actual challenge? If you can't do it for a week, do it for 3 days, but I want you to feel some of the changes just by doing this consciously for a sustained period of time. Even 3 days and you're going to start seeing results. Maybe you go on a 3-day tech fast, you don't go online. So, you're not tempted to look at things that are going to lower your consciousness, because 95 or 99% of things you're going to find online are going to lower your consciousness, right? There are creators like myself, for example, that try and do the opposite and raise. So you can obviously go out and watch my videos, my stuff. I like watching people like Kyle Cease. I have other mentors I'll watch sometimes. But sometimes it's just good to close it up, right? And be with yourself and connect with yourself, right? So I've had limited tech days where I'm like, I'm only going to be on technology when I really need it, right? I'm posting a video, or I'm doing video research, or I'm doing a course, right? Or I'm watching someone specific, but it's on their own platform, not on YouTube, so there's no way to be distracted. It's all higher level energies there. And this is how you start living in these energies. You invest more attention into it. Which are you feeding? That's the way to look at it. Where is your energetic diet? Are you eating energetic junk food by always giving attention and really pandering to the anger and the sadness and the guilt and the shame? Again, not bad to feel these emotions, but feeling them in a sustained way is going to lead to results that are equivalent to this energy. Or are you feeding the love, the gratitude, the abundance, the peace, the joy, the connectivity to the divine? Is that what you're feeding? Because guess what? You are feeding one or the other every moment of every single day. Every moment you are here on this planet, you have been transmitting a frequency that feeds one or the other. Right? There's a spectrum of these things, but are you above 200 most of the time, which again starts at courage and goes up to things like willingness and acceptance, wisdom, peace, joy, gratitude, all of them as you start going up. Love, unconditional love, even enlightenment, if you want to get to like Christ level, Buddha level, levels of consciousness, monk on a mountain levels of consciousness, right? But which one are you feeding? And guess what? You can only focus on one at a time. You can flip-flop between the two. This is why, again, someone could say, well, I'm doing my gratitude, I'm doing, this practice and that practice, but things are still not working. Yes, but how often are you actually in the energy? Again, if you for 10 minutes meditate and then for 20 minutes do some affirmations, that's better than doing nothing. Still not talking about what you're actually, are you actually hooked in when you're doing those? But then if you just go through the rest of your day in anger and guilt and shame and fear, well, you've counteracted any good thing you did right there, right? You can't expect a little bit of gratitude and then just the universe provides like all this other stuff. The universe works on the law of balance. When you are giving it so much love, when you are transmitting so much gratitude, right, to the point where you're transmitting as much gratitude as most people transmit things like fear, the universe, through the law of balance, has to balance out your physical reality so that it matches the consistent energetic state you've been giving it. 6 to 8 weeks, the quantum to Newtonian transition point. Sustained particle flow, 6 to 8 weeks. And guess what? Dramatic results. You will start, again, that's why I'm trying to get you to do it for even 3 days or a week. Certain things will start to change. You will start noticing and feeling different things if you do it even for 3 days to a week. Of course, please go longer once you do that. But if you stay in those states, what ends up happening is the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, whatever the energy that runs all of this, right? It has to balance out the energy. You see, most people have a physical reality they always complain about and they hate because they've been given off an energy of fear or anger or lower consciousness 95% to maybe 100% of the time for some people. And so the universe says we have to balance this out. We have to give them the energetic equivalent physically, right? But you can do it from the other end of the spectrum. That's why you can look at certain people and go, wow, why is their life just seems so amazing? Why can't mine? It can be. Right? But you are using past evidence, physical evidence, to determine your future. You're like, well, it's always been this way, so it always will be. A new future is always available, and it starts from within. It starts, where are you living energetically? Where are you visiting? Right? So my goal every single day is to try and aim to live the majority of each and every day in these higher levels of energy. And yeah, sometimes I'll visit other levels of energy. Sometimes I'll do it very intentionally. Sometimes old patterns will come up and be like, okay, and then my awareness will come back and I'll starve that energy. You know, if you think about it, if you have 2 dogs and one's high consciousness and one's low consciousness and you only have enough food for one, well, which one's going to get stronger and which one's going to get weaker? Whichever one you feed will get stronger. You feed these dogs through your attention. Whatever you're putting your focus on, energy flows. Where focus goes, energy flows. So which one are you giving your focus? The fear, the anger, the whatever else it is? And it doesn't matter how you justify it. Your ego is a justifying machine. Your mind will find any reason for why you need to stick with the anger, the fear, and everything like that. It'll find every reason, and it'll sound pretty good. But why not try and give your focus to the other one and see what happens? Usually what happens is you completely forget about those good reasons. What ends up happening is you realize, like, oh, those weren't even good reasons. They just felt good at the time because you were hooked into that energy. So you were just feeling familiarity because it's like, yeah, I'm already in anger. Of course I'm justified and I got to stay here. But what if you started feeding the other one? 2 things happen. One, this one becomes stronger, but this one becomes weaker. You weaken the connection to always being angry, always being in fear, always being in shame and guilt. Again, visiting these emotions is 100% okay. No emotion is good or bad. It's all a matter of choice. And I'll say from my perspective, I have enjoyed way more living in the higher levels of consciousness, which I actually believe we are more connected to. I think the higher you get up in the consciousness levels, the more you connect to what you truly are. But you have a choice. It has to be a choice. Some people think they don't have a choice, but you really do. You are so powerful, you can convince yourself of anything. You can convince yourself that you don't have a choice when you're continually making the same choice that's giving you the same results. But it's still a choice. So where are you visiting and where are you living? All right, so I think we covered a lot there. You can anyone who does see this, you can leave some questions for me, and I'll clarify on some things if I can in there. But ultimately, my challenge for you is to take a look at your life, take a look at how you typically move, and first, have a day where you're just bringing in awareness. So just observe yourself. Like, do you get angry a lot? Or are you able to access these higher emotions? Like, what are you doing? What is typical for you? And then what I want you to do, and again, it's an invitation. It's not really, it doesn't matter what you do, but it's an invitation if this feels good to you. I want you to deliberately, for at least the next 3 days, ideally a week, and ideally even beyond that. If you do it for a week and you actually do it, you'll automatically want to do it beyond that. 3 days, perhaps. It'll give you enough of a taste, enough of a sampling of how you could feel almost all the time, where you could live. It's like going to visit, like some Airbnb in this beautiful place you want to go visit, and then it's like, would you like to live here? And in the energetic realm, again, you can access anything instantaneously. So you could just stay there energetically, right? So, but by visiting it, experiencing that, it'll give you more options. Like your decision space expands. So my challenge for you is to do that. For the next 3 days at least, prioritize feeding the dog of high consciousness and starving the dog of low consciousness. If you don't like that analogy, just use something else. Yeah, you're not actually starving a dog. Don't worry. Maybe you hate cats. They're cats. Or one's a dog, one's a cat. I don't know. You know. But ultimately, for 3 days, make it a priority. That means everything else is secondary. Everything else is secondary. Use it over a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And prioritize doing things that you love, getting enough rest, meditating, gratitude, doing things that keep you in that feel-good place for 3 whole days. The majority of each and every day. Don't watch nonsense. Get off of Netflix. If you are going to watch something, make sure it's deliberately high conscious. If you find yourself browsing on YouTube, as soon as you become aware, X out. Get out of it. If you find yourself engaging in certain low consciousness conversation or whatever, find ways to remove yourself from the situation. Again, just for these next 3 days and see what happens. Keep yourself in the attitude of gratitude. Journal. Do the things that you love. And I'm excited for you because amazing things can come from just doing this for a few days and can be life altering.